everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and today we are kicking off Spring Flingoween. In case you don't know, Spring Flingoween is a readathon that is hosted by Gabby from Gabby Reads and Olivia from Olivia Reads a Latte. They do these spooky Halloween themed readathons several times throughout the year. There's Summerween, Winterween, Camp Weekendween, and now Spring Flingoween, and I have done them every single time. I have also vlogged them, I'm pretty sure, every single time, so I'll leave some links down below in the description if you want to catch up on my journey through what is sometimes known as the weenies, according to Katie Coulson. But I'm super excited to be kicking off Spring Flingoween today. There are two prompts this time around. One is to read a book with pink and/or yellow on the cover, and then the other one is to read a backlist book. I'm actually filming this at the end of the readathon, so I can tell you confidently that I did complete both prompts. I read several books. I had a DNF along the way. I had a surprise read along the way. So you're about to be in for a journey. But I'm just going to send you back in time to the beginning of the readathon. It was a 4-day long readathon from Wednesday to Saturday, so I'm going to send you back to Wednesday, and I hope you enjoy. So I've started reading this novella. We had to remove this post by Hannah Bervowitz. I'm 38 pages in. It's really short. It's only like 130 something pages, and this is a very, very tiny book. I don't know if you can really tell, but like it's very short and very small and very square. So I'm gonna finish this in like the next 30 minutes to an hour probably. But I wanted to give you one update in the midst of it, I guess, just to give an update on the experience of reading the book. I don't really know what to fully expect with this. I won this in a Goodreads giveaway. It was the first book I've ever won in a Goodreads giveaway, and I've been applying to Goodreads giveaways since literally like 2013, 14. So after all these years, I finally won one, and this was the one. This book's actually already out, I think. I think it came out in March, but they sent an ARC copy, and I don't know if that's normal for Goodreads giveaways because, like I said, I've never won one before until now, but I don't know. That's why it looks like this instead of the cover that you'll see if you look this book up, which is actually really cool. I'll pop it up right here. And I'm kind of sad that I didn't get this cover because that would be a really cool looking book to have. But yeah, this is a short little novella. It is originally written in, I believe, Dutch. The author is from the Netherlands. She lives in Amsterdam with her girlfriend and her 2 guinea pigs, which just sounds like a dream life. Yeah, I haven't heard anyone talk about this one yet. I remember seeing it float around a little bit, which is how it ended up on my radar, on my TBR, why I submitted to the giveaway. But I haven't heard any reviews of this really. I went to Goodreads to look up the reviews of this when I marked it to like currently reading. I just scrolled to look at the reviews and all the reviews are written in Dutch. So I'm going into this without really knowing what other people think about it or really what to expect. I don't know if this is intended to be kind of like horror or if it's more like literary fiction. It's kind of giving me the vibes that it is mostly a literary fiction but has horror elements to it, which I don't know. Horror and like literary horror and that like cross section, it's kind of hard to distinguish sometimes. But what it is about, you're following this woman named Kaylee who worked at this company where she was a content moderator for a social media platform, like a really big one. And the book is told in second person as she's writing a letter to a lawyer who is dealing with this big case that's broke out from this lawsuit from this company. They treated their employees really terribly. She was one of them, and the lawyer's been trying to reach out to her, and she's writing back to the lawyer, and she's like, here's why I haven't been contacting you. I'm gonna tell you my story, and then you need to leave me alone. So you're reading her story, you're learning about when she first applied for this position and the training process, and it is dark. And it's like doing a very effective job of building the commentary of what this story is about, because it's something you don't really think about a lot, or at least I don't really think about a lot, that there are actual content moderators who have to look at all of the just awful things that people try to post out there on the internet. They have to manually look at that, flag it, take it down, mark why they have to take it down. And I guess this book, maybe you could call it kind of like satirical in a way, the way it's making a commentary on social media and all of that, and like what can be allowed and what can't be allowed, because she'll just kind of go on these long stream of consciousness kind of writing style about the content she would see and how she would have to market for certain things. Like if it is like, I'm not gonna remember exactly, but like if it's hate speech against a politician, it's okay unless the politician is a particular seat of something because they're a protected group. And you can't say that all Muslims are terrorists because Muslims are a protected group, but you can say all terrorists are Muslims because terrorists aren't a protected group. And she's just like talking through all of this and the insanity behind all of it. And it just makes you sit here like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is crazy to think about. And also just like all the wild things that she would see while moderating the content, like just casually dropping really gruesome imagery in the middle of sentences. So it's pretty intense at this point, which is why I feel like it does lean pretty much into horror. And the blurb that's on the front of this copy is from Kristen Arnett, who I haven't read anything from yet, but I do have her book With Teeth on my TBR, and I do also want to read her other book, Mostly Dead Things. And her blurb said, "This is one of the most fascinating books I've read in years. Hannah has created an astonishing and compelling cast of characters drawn together through circumstance, separated by the same. The novel is fast-paced and thrilling, violent and nightmarish, and grief-stricken, but also tender and wildly moving. Brilliant peek behind the curtains at what happens when we put our trust in social media. Believe me when I say you've never read anything like it." So yeah, I don't know, I'm enjoying it so far. I'll finish it here pretty quickly and then I'll let you know my final thoughts on it. Happy day 2 of the readathon. I can't believe we're already on day 2. I feel very far behind. But I did finish my little novella last night. We had to remove this post, but I was in bed when I finished it, so I figured I would just wait until today to update you on how the rest of it went. This is one of those novellas where nothing really happens, I guess. I was kind of caught off guard when it ended. It ends very abruptly, and I was like, this is it? This is how we're ending the novella? We're not gonna say anything else? But it is an interesting kind of concept, and it's a book that I feel like encourages conversations about social media, what we're exposed to, what is allowed, what isn't allowed, and how what we're exposed to on social media can affect us in detrimental ways without us even fully realizing it. But I don't know that this book like does a lot or says a lot in itself, or if it just kind of starts that thinking process and starts that dialogue. I feel like for me, I didn't get a ton out of it. It wasn't incredibly effective for me, other than it did get my gears turning and it made me start thinking about these things, which is cool and effective, but not like a mind-blowing story. Also, I'm not really sure how to categorize this because Goodreads categories are like literary fiction, Dutch fiction, LGBTQ, because a lot of it is about the sapphic relationship in the story. I could see this being categorized as horror in terms of like literary horror kind of subgenre. I could also see people saying this isn't horror, so I don't know. It's not like supernatural horror, but it's just there's a lot of horrific things in here, very dark themes, but mostly just kind of like literary in terms of don't expect anything crazy to go on by the end of it. Like I said, it ends very abruptly, and yeah, I was kind of surprised at where it ended. So I feel like where I sit in terms of a rating of this is probably like a 3.5. It was interesting, it got my gears turning, but it wasn't really anything groundbreaking for me. I would say, like in terms of if I recommend it or not, if you think the story sounds interesting to you or like the concept, if it's something you want to think about more, then I would recommend it, but maybe just try to get like a library copy or something is maybe how I would say. I don't know if I would say like go out and buy this book right now and read it. I would just say if you have an opportunity to read it, it's very short and it is kind of interesting. So next up, I think I'm going to pick up An Honest Lie by Tarryn Fisher. I'm probably not gonna like this book, but I'm gonna read it anyway. Or at least I'm gonna try to, I don't know. Maybe it'll be a DNF, but I really don't even know too much what it's about. There's a woman, I think she has a sister. She's somewhere in the remote area in PNW. I've heard there's like cult things going on in this story. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. It was a new Tarryn Fisher, so I'll pick it up. I'll see how it goes. I've seen a couple other people are reading this book right now too, so I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to pick it up and just kind of see so I can talk to people about it, but I'm certainly not expecting this to be a great one, but I do think I should be able to read it quickly. I usually read Tarryn Fisher's books pretty quickly. I don't really know why, because I never really love them, but they're just like really easy to read and get through really quickly, so hopefully I can read this one up pretty quick. There are some reading sprints going on Gabby's Patreon in like 15 minutes with her and my friend Sab from Riveting Reads. I'm working, so I'm not gonna be able to read with them, but I'm gonna put it up in the background and kind of chat with them a little bit at the same time too. So yeah, that is what I'm gonna do. And then I will be picking up an Honest Lie after work today, and I will update you once I get a little bit into the story and just kind of see what first impressions are and figure out what the story is even about. Alright, so I have started an Honest Lie, and I honestly don't see it going very well. We knew this all along. I said this from the start, that I probably wouldn't like this book. But from reading the first 60 pages of it, and just from some other information I've gathered today, I was watching Gabby's sprints and her Patreons, and she was reading this book, and she got to around page 200 something-ish. So she read like a lot of it. And then Kayla, Books and La La, was also in the chat saying that she also read it, and neither of them liked it. I'm not liking it 60 pages in. And on Goodreads reviews, I'm seeing other people not like it. Apparently just like nothing happens. And I'm also seeing people say that the whole like flashback stuff is really disjointed. What I found out this book is about is you're following this woman Rainey who has recently moved to Washington. She's with this guy named Grant that she's dating, and she started hanging out with this group of women. He wants her to have friends, so she's hanging out with all these women that she's not like actually friends with, but just like trying to become friends with, I guess, or he wants her to be friends with them. And they're taking a girls trip to Vegas, and they invite her along, and she doesn't really want to go, but he wants her to go, so she's gonna go, but we haven't gone yet. But she also doesn't want to go to Vegas because she has a past with Vegas, and then you get flashback chapters, and it's all this stuff about how she got pulled into a cult with her mother. That's the story. Essentially what's gonna happen based on the synopsis is when they get to Vegas, one of the women's gonna go missing, and there's gonna be a message from someone on a phone, and Rainey knows they're really just trying to get to her. But I don't know, so far I have like no motivation to read this at all, just because I'm hearing everybody talking about it and saying it's not great. And also, like, if I compare this to thinking about how I felt reading The Wives or The Wrong Family, at least when I was starting those books, I thought they were interesting, and the first halves really had me hooked and were interesting concepts, but it was just the ending that fell apart for me in both of those. But this one, I'm not even pulled in from the beginning, so it's not looking good. I think I might actually pivot and try a different book because I don't want to waste time reading this in a very short readathon if I don't like it. Will I pick it back up? Will I finish it? I don't know. There's an audiobook on Scribd, so I've been listening to that as well. So maybe I'll just put the audiobook on in the background to eventually see what happens, but I'm just not super intrigued, and I don't really want to waste my time on this one. So the other two books that I have to read, I have All Her Little Secrets by Wanda Morris, and I have Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough. I am a million times more excited to read Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough because I've been hearing such good things about it, and it's a new release, and I'm just excited about it as a new release. But one of the prompts for Spring Fling-a-Ween is to read a backlist book, and so All Her Little Secrets would fit that, and it's Kayla's book club pick for the Literally Dead book club, and I think they're talking about it this weekend. I think the live show is maybe on Sunday, but I'm just like not psyched to read that book at all either. I don't know why, I'm just like not super excited about it. Maybe yeah, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to start Insomnia because if I love it, I know that I'll get through it really quickly, and then I'll still have time to try All Her Little Secrets. And if I end up not really liking it and DNFing it as well, then it's not gonna matter as much to me because by then we'll be near the end of the readathon and it'll be fine. I will just listen to the live show and get the spoilers if I don't like it. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna start Insomnia tonight, and I will let you know in the morning how I feel about it. Good morning and happy day 3 of Spring Fling-a-Ween. This readathon is flying by right before my eyes. I did want to update you. I started Insomnia last night and I really didn't read too terribly much of it. I only got 30 pages in, so really basically not much at all. I'm realizing as I'm reading it that my expectations are like way up here for the book, and I might need to like temper that and get more realistic expectations going into this. I've just been hearing such amazing reviews of this, and I just enjoyed the last book I read from Sarah Pinborough, Behind Her Eyes, so much that I was expecting this from like the very first sentence to absolutely captivate me and blow me away, which is just unfair expectations to set on a book. And so far I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's fine, but nothing's really happening yet. yet, but of course not. We're only 30 pages in. So I'm trying to have more realistic expectations. I can't remember if I ever really told you what this was about last night. Everything was a little bit of a blur, but what this story is about is you're following this woman named Emma, and her mother, when her mother was like 40 years old, started to quote unquote lose her mind. She had insomnia, she wasn't sleeping, and then she started to go mad, go into psychosis. Not really sure the best way to describe it. That's what happened when her mom turned 40, and now she's about to turn 40 and she's terrified that's gonna happen to her. So you're starting a couple days before her 40th birthday, and it's kind of like counting down to the 40th birthday, and you're just like learning about her life. She seems to be an attorney or working with attorneys in some way. She's like trying to become the next partner at the firm. She's got some enemies, she's got a husband, she's got some kids. This is, I think, the third book in a row now that I've read with a character named Rob. I'm wondering what direction this is gonna go. You don't really know Sarah Pinborough. I wonder if it's gonna lean kind of horror, if it's gonna lean kind of speculative. I don't really have any predictions at this point, and I don't really have any feelings at this point since I have barely broken into this one, but I'm hoping to get pretty far in it tonight. I'm gonna be doing some reading sprints with my friend Hannah, which I'm super excited about because we haven't hung out in a while. So hopefully I can get a lot of reading done. So yeah, I will update you once I have more of an impression on the book. Of the readathon. I did in fact finish Insomnia last night. I read a good deal of this on the live reading sprints that I did with Hannah, so I didn't stop to update on the vlog. If you're watching those sprints, you can see me updating throughout reading the book, and those sprints are still live, so I'll leave a link to that as well if you want to go see that, to see my updates throughout as I was reading this book. I didn't finish it on the live sprints. I finished it afterwards when I went to bed, but all in all, I unfortunately didn't have the best experience with this book, and that was super disappointing because I know so many of my friends have been loving this book and I really haven't seen a non-great review for it. But something about it just didn't really captivate me the way it captivated everyone else. I found this book to be very slow and very repetitive for like the first 80% of the book. I thought the synopsis of the book was vague because there were going to be a lot of other things happening that you weren't expecting throughout the story, but all that happens in the story is the vague synopsis of a woman afraid that she's going to lose her mind like her mother did, and you're following like the 2 weeks before her 40th birthday, and she's just like going about her life wondering if she's losing her mind and she's not able to sleep. These numbers keep appearing, or she keeps saying these things and she doesn't know why, and she's worried about what's happening to her. And that's just it over and over and over and over again until about the 80-85% point, and then you start learning some more things and the plot twist is revealed. I did think the plot twist was really cool in this book, in the same way that Sarah Pinborough's book Behind Her Eyes was like this crazy plot twist. This book also had a crazy plot twist and I really liked it. I thought it was a really cool concept, but to me I feel like all this book was that concept, and then nothing else really went on from there. I don't know, I just didn't feel like I was going down these paths or like getting these red herrings or really feeling like things were happening in the story. I wish a lot of what happened more towards the end happened way earlier in the story. I just felt like it was stretched for so long of just like nothing happening. And I know that's probably super frustrating to hear if you love this book, and I was talking about that on the live sprints last night as well, is I've definitely had this experience before where like I love a book and then a lot of other people read it and they don't love it and they say it's boring and they say that nothing nothing happened. And I'm like, what do you mean? So much happened in the book. Like, it was building so much suspense. It was building so much tension. It was all these things coming together. But other people don't feel that way. And I feel like this is a book where a lot of people love this. And I just feel like nothing happened in it. But I'm sure if you loved it, you don't feel that way. And so I know that can be frustrating to hear. And I know it's disappointing when someone doesn't love a book that you loved. So I'm sorry, but I do have to be honest. I just didn't love this book. It was just really boring to me. And then the end was really great. So I think it has so much potential. I just wish it could have been more exciting the whole way through. I wish I could have been more intrigued in the story. I did think the writing was good. Like, it didn't feel like a bad book when I was reading it. It just felt really boring to me. And it felt very repetitive. I feel like we just kept getting nowhere. It felt like every chapter I was like, okay, is this when we're finally gonna have something happen, or we're gonna get some piece of information? And it was just like nothing for so long. I think the rating that I'm gonna land on for this book is higher than you might expect with how I'm talking about it, but I think I'm gonna give it a 3-star. Most of the experience when I was reading it, I was pretty frustrated that nothing was happening, and it was feeling like a 2-star to me, and I was getting really annoyed. But I do like the ending, I like the concept, and I liked the writing throughout. I thought the writing was good writing. It just, like, the plot, I just didn't feel like anything was happening. But I know a lot of people love this. I don't think it's a terrible book. I just think it was dragged out for a really long time. I wish more things could have been happening faster. But again, this is just my opinion, and everyone else I've heard read this book really likes it. So don't let my opinion dissuade you from trying this book, because I know a lot of people do like it, but it just unfortunately wasn't the best experience for me. So it's about noon right now, so I still have the rest of the day to finish out the readathon. I could kind of end it here, but I still haven't hit the prompt of reading a backlist book, and I'm not super strict on trying to hit prompts and readathons, but I do have a lot of time left, so I figured I might as well read one more thing. What I was thinking of reading, what I've been talking about, is All Her Little Secrets by Wanda M. Morris. This is the book club pick for the Literally Dead book club, and the live show is tomorrow, so I would have to like read it all today before that live show to be able to tune in for the whole thing. And it's like, ooh, almost 400 pages. It's like 365 pages long. But I just don't feel like I'm in the mood to read this, and I don't feel like this would be a strong finish, this vlog, for me. I really want to read something good since I haven't had a good read during this readathon. I want to finish with something strong. I could very well end up liking this book, but I'm just not in the mood for it now, and so that usually hinders my experience of a book. I don't want to force myself to read this if I'm not in the mood to read it. So what I've decided to do is I really want to read a horror novella, because I haven't really read like true horror for this readathon yet, and I do want to read a novella because that can just be something quick to knock out. So I had 4 novellas on my radar. They're all available on Scribd. I don't own any of them physically, but I put up a poll on my Instagram last night to see which one people think I should read, which one I should finish out the readathon with, and I don't know the final results, so I'm gonna check that now, and then we'll see what I'm gonna be reading. Okay, so there are 2 that got a ton of votes, and then 2 that did not get a ton of votes. The top 2 that got the most votes, not in order, are Come Closer and The Patient. And the one that got the most votes was, drumroll please, The Patient. So I'm gonna be reading that one on Scribd today. And who knows, maybe if it goes by really quickly, I'll read more than one horror novella. But if I love it, I'm just gonna end where I love it. If I love The Patient, we're gonna call it an end, and we're gonna just finish on a strong note. I've heard really good things about this horror novella. It's a psychological one, and I've heard it's really, really scary. I've heard that this messes with your mind and creeps a lot of people out. So I hope it's effective for me. This says that it's good for fans of Sarah Pinborough's Behind Her Eyes and Paul Tremblay's The Cabin at the End of the World, which I did love both of those. Those were both 5-star reads for me. The synopsis says, Parker, a young, overconfident psychiatrist new to his job at a mental asylum, miscalculates catastrophically when he undertakes curing a mysterious and profoundly dangerous patient. In a series of online posts, Parker H., a young psychiatrist, chronicles the harrowing account of his time working at a dreary mental hospital in New England. Through his internet message board, Parker hopes to communicate with the world his effort to cure one bewildering patient. We learn, as Parker did on his first day at the hospital, of the facility's most difficult, profoundly dangerous case, a 40-year-old man who was originally admitted to the hospital at age 6. The patient has no known diagnosis. His symptoms seem to evolve over time. Every person who has attempted to treat him has been driven to madness or suicide. Desperate and fearful, the hospital's directors keep him strictly confined and allow minimal contact with staff for their own safety, convinced that releasing him would unleash catastrophe on the outside world. Parker, brilliant and overconfident, takes it upon himself to discover what ails this mystery patient and finally cure him. But from his first encounter with the mystery patient, things spiral out of control, and facing a possibility beyond his wildest imaginings, Parker is forced to question everything he thought he knew. Oh gosh, I just scrolled down to see the ratings and reviews, and it always shows you like people that you're friends with or that you follow at the beginning, you know? So the first thing I see is a review from Gabby of Gabby Reads, and she gave it a 4.5 star. And then the next review I see is from Katie Colson, and she gave it a 1-star review. So it's probably gonna be a hit or miss. I don't know, we'll see. But I'll plan to read it a little earlier in the day, so in case I need to read another novella after this, we'll still have time. Okay, hello. I just finished the whole novella for The Patient by Jasper DeWitt. It's so short that I figured I would just read it all in one go and then update you. And the good news is it pretty much went well, and so I feel good closing out the readathon with this book. And that means that I hit all 2 prompts for the readathon of reading something with yellow and or pink on the cover and a backlist book. So that's always fun to be able to feel accomplished, but I don't really know exactly where my landing is going to sit with this one. I definitely am cautious about any kind of thriller or horrors that deal with mental health and the very thin line between villainizing mental health conditions like the psychopath and how those characters get villainized, and then when you bring in like potential supernatural things going on with it, it's like, where are things falling? What's the message here? I like to be careful of, sorry if the angle just changed, my camera just died, but I like to just try to be more mindful of that. And you know, I'm super aware of it. It's hard for me to ignore. So there is like a little bit of me in some places where I was like, is this getting into dangerous territory in some areas? But for the most part, I think it was fine. I'm obviously not a licensed professional, so like, what do I really know anyways? But the story definitely leans more towards like supernatural horror, and so I personally felt okay about how the story played out. I think it's probably gonna land somewhere between a 3.5, 4. I feel like I'm probably gonna settle around a 3.5 for me. It was very fast to read. It was engaging the way it was written. I like that it's kind of written as like these blog post entries, and I guess the story started on Reddit. There was something in the author's note about that, so that makes sense how that like naturally kind of translated. I just really like when horror is in unique forms like that, where it's like letters or blog posts or emails. I think that always makes it really effective because it feels like you're reading a real thing, and that makes it even more scary. So I liked that. Pacing was good. I think right at the end there, and I'm not going to spoil anything, with how things get figured out and explained was a bit of a leap and a bit of a jump to me. So that was the place where I was like getting pulled out of the story a little bit because I wasn't as convinced with how we were getting to where we were getting. But overall, I think it was a cool concept. I think it was effective. It was scary, and it was just a good fast read. So I'm probably going to land around like a 3.5 for this one. I don't think it's going to be the most memorable horror novella for me, but I do think it is one that I would recommend picking up, especially if you're looking for something to read quickly in a readathon and you need something that is not going to be a big disappointment. So that is it for the Spring Flingoween readathon. I've made it to the end. I think I've been wearing this shirt like almost every single day. This is like my cozy weekend shirt, and I just realized that it's probably been in like most clips, so it's gonna get a good wash after this. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. Even though all the books that I read weren't the absolute best, I still had fun getting through some books on my TBR this week. And to sum it all up, I read We Had to Remove This Post, which is kind of like a literary fiction novella with a little bit of horrific psychological horror type elements to it. That one ended up being like a 3-star for me. I wouldn't say don't pick it up, but I wouldn't say run and pick it up. Kind of felt pretty neutral about it. Then I tried to read An Honest Lie by Taryn Fisher, and that one was a pretty hard and fast DNF. Definitely wouldn't really recommend it. Haven't really heard anyone else really liking it. I would probably say just go ahead and skip it. Then I read Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough, which didn't end up being my favorite book like it tends to be for so many other people, but sometimes I do just have that unpopular opinion, so I would definitely still say pick it up. People are loving it. You probably have a good chance of loving it too. I just personally thought it was slow and repetitive and stretched out a lot before it got to what I will say was a super cool plot twist, and I really did like the ending portion of it. It just took me a really long time to get there. And then finally I ended Ended Things Out with a Patient by Jasper DeWitt, which we just talked about, but that's like a 3.5 for me. Quick, fast, psychological, spooky, supernatural, and a good time. If you participated in Spring Flingween, definitely let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what you read. Let me know how it went for you. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I've read and what you think about them as well, and we can chat about that all down below. And for today's emoji, to show that you got to the end of the video, you can leave a ghost emoji or a good, cute little spooky emoji for Spring Flingween. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!